The laws of the land does not allow you to compel people to do this. But any limitation must be justified. Uncle Kwame Dakoro Bomat. But before Onobo Tumwa Bomat, also do you need three way so the mat ne flow. An academic institution cannot just get up and say, yapon. Yes, we'll be ancha, yapon. Human right in today's world. Unban them. Today, I am disagreeing with a man I sincerely like. If you ask me, he's one of the finest politicians we've ever had in this country. The one that is running the education ministry now, the Honorable Haruna Idrisu. Hats off to him. He is a man that I love so much. I think that he's really paid his dues in Ghana politics and he knows so much in this country. You understand? Recently, he was at Mauli School's anniversary. And big shouts going out to Mauli School. You guys made a lot of statements over the weekend. You were everywhere on socials. Big love going out to you. Now, the minister was talking in accordance or relation to something that had trended in this country for some time. You understand? And well, he made some statement and even empowered school heads to, as it were, go ahead with the directive of keeping a low hair as the standard for admitting students into senior high schools, because he said we want to groom these people. Now, away from there, let's also establish that this conversation is not one about politics. If it were, you'd not have a presidential staffer disagreeing publicly with the honorable minister. It's just about what you think and what I think. But opinions do not necessarily run a state, especially for a country like Ghana that has chosen to go on the democratic route. You understand? Yeah, and Adrian there. We like the Kebimamin Kebiamembo. So you have a say, I have a say, everybody will have a say. And that is why we have the Parliament House, so that your views are well represented, mine is well represented, and it can be factored into decision making. For me to be able to establish why I disagree with the Honorable Minister this time around, then we'll have to use a case study. And the case study we can use is a very famous Achimota Rastaman case. You understand? So now, with this at the back of your head, let's begin. One will want to find out exactly where this rule comes from. Now, for most people, they will tell you that, oh, I did it, you also did it. Why is it that now all of a sudden you want to make noise about it and all of that? But the young man that took the school to court, the young man that sued his school before getting admission, really gave us a very nice precedent for us to solve this problem once and for all. And here's what he did. That court case brought out the findings that there is not a single rule under our constitution that can force somebody to wear a low profile before that person gets an admission or before that person gets an education. You understand? Now, this whole wearing of low hair or keeping a low hair for admission and all of that started here in Ghana, according to a research by Ernest Dakwa of Erasmus University in Rotterdam in Netherlands. He did a research for the International Journal of Current Researchers in Sciences, Social Sciences and Languages. Now, through this research, it was clearly identified that this rule is not one that was made by Ghanaian leaders. It is not one that was made by our traditional rulers. It is one that started in this country as a colonial decision. If you wanted to attend a colonial school, or what we used to call or still call mission schools at the time, then if you were an African, you are required to keep your hair very low before you come to school. One of the rationales behind that was because the Europeans at the time were struggling to differentiate between us. They saw us as the same. They see this guy, they see that guy, they think we all look the same. You understand? So keeping a low profile, now it is they are able to identify you to some extent. So that is how it started. Became a norm, and when colonial masters left this country, handed over the country to Ghanaians, some people took over our mission schools and all of that. And in the spirit of maintaining discipline, law and order, and some amount of uniformity, we decided that, okay, we'll keep this rule. We'll basco at and all of that. But sincerely speaking, because it was not a decision made by us, it was not made by our government, it was not made by our local administration, it was not even made by the authorities who were Ghanaians at the time governing the school. It was an inherited decision. What happened was that we struggled to now give definitive answers, or we struggled to give proper justifications on why, if Africans are still ruling Africans, they need to wear a certain style of hair to be able to get education. Do you get where I'm coming from? Exactly. So the Achimota Rasta guy takes a whole school to court and says that, listen, some of the key facts that he raised in his argument, you should read the judgment. He said that, he told the court that, listen, I've gone to junior high school and I have been able to be the school prefect of my junior high school, pass out with flying colors, maintain discipline, law and order, and gained admission to the school, right? Yeah, I don't want to mention names. To the school. So I am by every metric, in line to be able to go to school. Then the school argues that, listen, this is a code of conduct that has been put together for every student to follow. It is not discrimination against you. It is not at all. It is that if you want to come into our school, this is our school. If you want to come into the school, you have to keep a certain hairstyle to be able to come into the school. Then the guy says that, okay, that is what you are requesting. He cannot do anything. But what does the law of the land say? Do you have any backing whatsoever to be able to tell me that before I can get admission into your school, because mind you, the school might be a body on its own and all of that, but it is still operating on this land. So the land and its laws will always supersede the school and its regulations. So the guy took it to the court. When he went to court, he did not just sue the school. He took the school to court, the board of directors of the school, and then the country, the state, and he won against all three of them. Do you know why? Because there is not a single law in our country that says that before a child can get education, it is a necessary requirement that only Niti and Sawaba school. There's not a law like that. So there was nothing that was, because again, it is an inherited law, we couldn't find a lot of backing to justify why the guy had to take his hair down before he would come to school. Let's look at some of the rationale people have used to, as it were, justify this decision. A lot of people will tell you that the reason why everybody needs to wear low hair and come to school is because it fosters discipline, or it gives some amount of uniformity. You understand? We'll come and address all of those. Number two, people have argued that it has hygiene connotations because, come to think of it, time and there are going to be a lot of reasons that students, because they are going to school majorly to learn, might not be able to necessarily focus on their hairstyle and all of that. And if they start focusing on their hairstyle and how they will appear, it is going to become a distraction to their major reason for being on campus, which is the academic purposes. The other one too that we have heard, which is very ridiculous in a very broader sense, is that it will not make some people fit in. So then it will not make some people fit in. So because of that, then if I can do this and you cannot do it, then for us to be at peace, then let us all not do it. That is also some of the reasons I have heard. Now, all of these are just opinions. It is not backed by any tangible research, and the court proved that. In May 2021, the High Court said that denying admission because of dreadlocks. Now, mind you, the guy went to court, Mr. Magai, he went to court and argued on the lines of religion. If you look at some of the things that he presented as his key fact, the guy is quoting Numbers 6:5 or something that talks about Samson and his hair, and he was instructed not to cut his hair and all of that. He put all of that in his argument, and the reason is that this country is a Christian state. We swear in by the Bible and all of that when you go to court. So the Bible is a good reference point for people to build their cases from, as and when a suit, you understand? So he used the Samson narrative that is his religion. His religion is that it ties into the Samson thing. He doesn't cut his hair. It is how he manifests his religion, how he lives it. He used that as an example. He also used his good behavior throughout junior high school, I should say. His good behavior throughout junior high school. He used all of that to say that he is not one that causes problem. And ever since he carried that hair, it has never been a hindrance to his academic performances. Another thing he mentions in his argument in court is that the school that he is even taking them to court had Pan-African roots. There were a number of people that represented Pan-Africanism and had gone to that school and all of that. So he felt like that was a lot of injustice in a world where it has become more Pan-African and political, you understand, especially for Africans. If you look at how Black Panther was received in the whole wide world, it is because of some of these intentionalities, the African feeling a sense of belongingness. That was the African and the black man at large. That was what it was about. It was that intentionality that sold the entire idea and concept, you understand, Africans becoming powerful on their own. So he used that in court. He used the Pan-African route of the school in court. So these were the lines that they were battling on. Number one, whether the applicant's right to education had been violated, and year one. Number two, whether the grooming rule and the denial of admission amount to a violation of the applicant's freedom of religion and belief, which included manifestation of religion by wearing his dreadlocks. Argument, no. He was wearing it because of his religion. Again, and then he says that whether any such right infringement can be justified under the Constitution. Again, so the minister says that leaders have been empowered to do this and do that and do that. Again, is it justified by the Constitution? Does the Constitution hold it and say that, okay, what the minister is saying is true? We give him the power to ensure that it can be enforced. No, our Constitution does not say that. And we'll get there. This is how the court reasoned the entire case. The court says that on education grounds, the court noted that grooming regulation cannot override the constitutional right of education. The court also asked, and this is where it is very important, the court asked a simple question. The court says that, how is the wearing of dreadlocks in that case impacting discipline, hygiene, and order enough to justify its exclusion? The court is, if you know a lot of people who love the court, they'll tell you that evidence is the rule of the game. The court was very simple. You say that you do all of these things because you want to enforce discipline, hygiene, grooming, orderliness, and all of that. Then the court asked you that you want to enforce that. The court says that, how does this boy's hairstyle, where he has rasta, how does it affect the discipline that you want to, as it were, enforce on the campus? How does it affect hygiene? How does it affect orderliness? Are you able to prove all of that? On the context of freedom and belief, this is how the court reasoned it. The court says that they accept that the applicant's dreadlocks were part of his religion, and then it held that the state must justify. Listen, the court says that the state, this country, and the Attorney General was in this case, must justify restrictions on the manifestation of religion. So if the boy says that my religion requires me, and you said that you are a Christian, you have adopted the Bible, I'm quoting to you the excerpt of my religion in your Bible, and my religion requires of me that I keep this hairstyle, or as part of my religious whatever, I need to carry this hairstyle. The court is asking the country to justify why, because of his education, he cannot hold on to his religious values. The country could not justify why. We couldn't. So the court said that then they lacked sufficient justification to deny admission. But mind you, there's one thing that the court said. The court said that the rights of this country, or the fundamental human rights of this country, are not absolute Limitations are possible. So the fact that you say your religion says you should do this, you should do that, does not mean that in cases where it hurts another person, or in cases where it violates a certain constitutional rule, we should just allow you because your religion says so. No. The court says that we are all entitled to fundamental human rights because we are human beings, but it is not absolute. Limitations are possible, but any limitation must be justified. That's what the court is saying. Making sure say wo pese ade ne ye ya yenya bibi woma ebe boa yenti na ye. It must be justified. One of the things that the court clearly stated was that the school's refusal to admit the guy, the school's refusal to admit the guy solely on his hairstyle is unconstitutional. The court's language was very clear. Also, what is the wearing of dreadlocks? What has it got to do with discipline? It is a competent court of jurisdiction asking this question. This happened in 2021, in May. It is a competent court asking this question from the state, from the school, that how, if you want to solely deny people access to education because of the hairstyle they wear, it is not constitutional. The court agreed and settled it that, listen, it is just a regulation. It is the idea behind it and the justifications are not solidified enough. As it stands now, it looks like it's a clear violation of human rights. I was a young man when I chanced on a conversation by Komla Dumont. It was a TEDx conversation, and he was talking about the level of I think he was talking about how the international media reports on Africa. There was a section of that conversation where he made a joke about the very first time he met a Nigerian senator. And he said that, he introduced himself to the Nigerian senator, and the Nigerian senator mentioned his name as Kola. He laughed and said, I am Ghanaian, my name is Komla. And then the woman said, wow, how confident. It's true. There are a number of times when you meet foreign nationals, they tell you that a lot of Ghanaians are timid compared to a lot of Africans from the West African region. A lot of Ghanaians are very timid. And some of these things could play a role. Let me show you how. So this is the grandest of stages when it comes to science and then math contest in this country. Look at what is happening here. The rule that the school put across, according to these schools, they say that it is to, as it were, present some uniformity. It is to, as it were, make every student fall in line. Amazingly. And again, it goes back to the conversation I was having with you earlier, that this is not a rule we made ourselves as a people. Ghanaian leaders did not make this rule. Traditional leaders, our grandfathers and great-grandfathers who were chiefs and kings, did not make this rule. So that is how come, in as much as the schools want to enforce it, they are not able to do it on foreign nationals. Even for public schools, when foreign nationals attend public, you and I have gone to schools. You and I have seen it in and around us. So don't deny this. When foreign nationals attend our public schools, they keep their hair. So look at this. This is where the injustice stems from. This is where a lot of people feel pained and hurt, because we are making a colonial rule take a better part of us. We didn't make this rule, so we can't enforce it on foreign nationals. Look at this. Uncle Kwame Dakoro Bomat. But before Onobotum wa Bomatin, also do you need three way kwabu so the mat ne flow. You see who is sitting there. Honestly, way you need three kwabu, not the ribbon. Or the sum with you. As a matter of fact, we cannot even tell her that even if you are going to keep a long hair, cut it or they try you pay a certain inches being put. We cannot. Because if we try, they'll take us to court. And when they take us to court, they will win the case. But for the Ghanaian, that little girl that we saw in that video, she had to cry and cut hairs because she is Ghanaian. And it hurts that people on their own soil do not get to enjoy what I would want to call privileges. That does not hurt anybody. This privilege will not hurt anybody. That if Akosua Mansa from Mumbai can come in school here and keep that long hair, and Ajwa Daku from Dakuman is going to that same school with Akosua Mansa, is sitting in that same class with Akosua Mansa, but does not enjoy that privilege. It goes back to that Komla Dumo conversation that Ghanaians are very timid people. Because then subconsciously, what is happening is that we are telling our people that they are not adequate. There are certain privileges that is not for them. On that same stage, see another one. On that same stage, see how senior man Anthony is sitting with the full glory of his face. Uncle Sowa. Uncle Sowa is sitting in the same class with senior man Anthony. But Uncle Sowa cannot keep the same hairstyle and bring it onto national television to show that he is brilliant. He cannot. Somebody will say that even his hair will not grow to this level. How about if his hair grows like this? Will the Ghana Education Service accept that a Ghanaian can keep this hair and attend secondary school? No. But a foreigner can. How? Because foreigners can also cut low hair. Why is it that rule does not compel them to cut a low hair as well? So you see, the conversation is like this. There are going to be times where you will want different things, I will want different things. And those things are going to always bring some amount of differences, some amount of, division sort of. But at the end of the day, the reason we chose democracy is that we will all come to the table and look at the matter. You understand? And look at the matter and see how well it helps us. In whose interest is it? Who does it best help? If it is detrimental to us, if it goes against us, then why are we doing it? Now, here's what I think institutions can do. Listen to my nonsense. I think that schools can start looking beyond. Schools can start looking beyond the chew and pour approach. You understand? We go to school and then we learn certain life skills. Let me tell you a story. I remember when I went to boarding house for the very first time and I came home for vacation. It was something that my mother used to say a lot of the times. Anytime that I was in my room, usually when I come for vacation, I don't wake up early in the morning. So she will wake up first, come to my room and all that. If she comes there, and I am awake, maybe I am outside, I am doing something, the first thing she comes outside to say is, "Ko, hey, where lay you bed? Baba debi." And that is because it was not a part of me before I went to school. I come back from school and the school has put that into me, that I am even forgetting that Mabefi, it has become a practice I am doing on the daily, you understand? And that is what our schools are supposed to do. They are supposed to institutionalize some of these life skills into us. Because mind you, I saw an argument on social media where somebody said that if you want to go to police people will tell you to cut your hair. If you want to come to soldier will tell you to cut your hair. Why is it that if you are going to school and they say cut your hair, you don't want to cut your hair? But the truth of the matter is that the police, they are telling him to cut his hair. The soldier, they are telling him to cut his hair because for the rest of his life, he will cut his hair. Unless he has stopped being a service person, he will cut his hair for the rest of his life. So you have signed that. You don't have that right anymore. You signed it off in defense of the nation. Now, when it comes to our schooling, is that the case? Let's look at what is beneficial to all of us. I don't know if this picture is Ghana, but here, Sister Letitia Green, Wabe School Africa, Onyene Geng, Letitia Trihun Fair Geng Kwabos. Not good. So my point is that if we are going to make it a rule, it should be a rule that if I enter into the school, it affects the foreign national, it affects the local. If we intend to make it a rule, then it should not be hypocritical at all. It affects the local, it affects the foreigner. All of us are cutting our hair to get admission requirement, and then it is backed by constitution. That one, I cannot come and sit here and say anything. Do you think I agree to every law in this country? But once it is a law and it is backed by constitution, I am tempted to agree that it has gone to parliament, it has undergone proper scrutiny, and they have accepted that this should happen. But once it has fine lines with fundamental human rights, an academic institution cannot just get up and say, "Yapon." Yes, we'll be happen. Human right in today's world. Unban them. Now, the question you're asking yourself is, how do these students take care of even the low hair that they wear? What do? Sometimes they shave themselves. We all went to secondary schools. Sometimes they shave themselves. Sometimes a certain baba will come around and shave a group of people. Sometimes people take exit to go out and go and shave their hair and come back and all of that. Don't you sincerely think that if schools were rather not being a little short-sighted on this conversation and we're going to open it up, it could actually be a lot of business coming in for schools? I think in Ghana, our educational curriculum should change a little, especially for senior high school. Let them institutionalize some of these grooming activities into the curriculum. You understand? Imagine when schools have grooming centers, maybe Sundays for 1 hour or 2 hours. It is for grooming. If a school can decide that if it is 8 o'clock, it's time for prep and everybody will go to prep. 9 o'clock, you go dining and everybody will go to dining. 1 to 3, you're going for class and everybody comes to class. Why can't a school tell them that on Saturdays between 4 and 5, it is time for grooming and this is the school salon. And all of that. If that is happening, what will happen? What is wrong with that? What is wrong with a student in secondary school wearing this hairstyle? There is nothing wrong with it. And this can be done by her friend on campus. This can be just like the boys shave themselves. The ladies can do this too, so that the hair is preserved. You see, a preservation, no. The hair is preserved from when he or she is done with that 3 years of school. Just 3 years in her life, she has not lost her glory. It's the truth. You understand? So I disagree. I disagree because, Mr. Minister, the truth of the matter is that our court is making us understand that there is not a constitutional backing to what we are trying to do. So if we want to do it so bad, maybe we can even contact Mr. Magai's school, the Rastaman school, and then go and ask the school, oh, akwani ba school no moma information, yeah research video making decisions. Did his performance drop? Did he become a hindrance to the school and its rules? Was he having discipline issues? Was his hairstyle a hindrance to his education? Were his friends suffering on campus as a result of the hairstyle? Maybe the school could have provided all of this insight so that it guides our decisions for us to say, oh, akwano ni enko court no ba school no. When the reason why I catch them say muntwa muti because oba school no na ho de nyina akofem ena ontumi mponsua de biom ena bibia okoye ni ti ena okoye ni ti say ena say nti ontumi mpomba class in term. And if all of those justifications that you guys give us for which we should wear our hair, we had that example coming through from this school, then fair enough. Or other schools can give us that justification. That is what the court wants. But there isn't, because the guy went to school and with that same hairstyle represented the school in competitions that made the school look good. I think we should resort to dialogue. I think we should talk about this. There are so many, it is a lot of work. And I am recognizing that it is a lot of work for us to even create prescribed hairstyle. It is a lot of work for public schools to do that. It is a lot of work. And that is what is putting a lot of us off from addressing the issue. But the laws of the land does not allow you to compel people to do this. So we need to look at it. If we want the laws of the land to compel people to do this, let's look at it, or let's be reasonable about it. And by being reasonable about it, what we can do is that, listen, there are certain prescribed hairstyles for people who have afro. We have accepted, maybe every school will determine this. For people who wear afro, for people who wear locks, this is how you keep it before coming to class. This is how you keep it on campus. For people who wear this, yes, the schools should do that. It is a lot of work, but they should do that because one of the many reasons we go to school is for us to consistently build on what we have. You understand? So I disagree with Mr. Minister. For me, this conversation is not just about hair. It is about what our schools are teaching beyond the classroom, through every rule they enforce. Because our academic institutions should not just prepare students for exams. They should shape the minds that will shape our nation in the future. If we teach them to follow blindly and sit down and watch their other people enjoy certain privileges and they don't get to enjoy it, how do you think we are building confidence in these people? But if we teach them to think, to reason, to speak to truth with respect, We're going to build a nation that is grounded in wisdom and confidence. So it is not like we are sitting here and speaking against discipline. It is a requirement. As somebody who was forced to read courtesy for boys and girls, I am not going to sit here and speak against the discipline. But neither am I going to sit here and agree to a rule that is very unfair to the African child. How is a foreign national keeping his hair, in this same country, in this same school, wearing the same uniform I am wearing? But I cannot. It feels a little discriminatory. It is not even a little, it is discriminatory. And we have to look at it. I think as a nation, we should resort to dialogue. You understand? Let's have a national dialogue on this. If we all agree and find justifications like the court was requesting that this is essential and it has to be done, so be it. I think that our schools should be more than factories of conformity. They should be institutions of inquiry where discipline is working hand in hand with dialogue. Asa, this is my opinion. What is your opinion as well? Peace out.